Welcome to the second episode of Horror and Chill. This is a real story that occurred in 2006, Calgary, Alberta, and it starts with me and my crew. We were ghost hunters and took a passion in going into haunted places to explore the unknown. Until one day, me and my crew received a phone call from an Edmonton resident from the west side of the city, complaining about the bizarre amount of screaming that could be heard in her neighborhood. She said that there was an old condemned hospital near where she lived. She then went on about how people say that it's just crackheads and homeless people screaming, but it all seemed a little off. She asked us if we could do some research on the Charles Camsell Hospital. Little came up, abandoned in 1996 due to asbestos. The movie White Coats was filmed there in 2004. So I thought to myself, if there's a movie that was shot there 2 years ago, it's probably not that bad. But then I started to Google the place, and dozens of stories started popping up. This began to gain my attention as I started learning more and more about its dark past. The hospital had a sterilization section that looked like it was straight out of 28 Weeks Later. I then consulted with the team, and we decided to take a look at the place. After painful negotiations, the property owner at the time agreed that he would give us 2 hours to explore floors 2 and 3 of the hospital. Apparently, the basements have been flooded, so they were our only option. At around 11 p.m., the three of us were escorted by 2 outdoor security guards into one of the garages on the side of the building. They then explained to us that this was the only entrance into the building because the rest of the doorways had been sealed with barbed wire to keep the homeless population out. I then thought about how the old lady mentioned that screams were coming from the hospital. If the place was sealed with barbed wire, how could anybody have gotten inside? One of the security guards said, "Check out the north wing. That's my favorite place," as he winked. I started getting pretty nervous as we approached the door to the main hallway. This was where the security left us. There was nothing in the rooms. Everything had been disposed of. Just pipes and electrical wiring here and there. There was graffiti littered all over the floors and walls. There were just your typical messages. 6666, I'm going to murder you. Leave us alone. Just your typical abandoned place nonsense. Our crew decided to stick together the entire time since we didn't know the area very well. As I walked up the staircase, I felt chills run down my back for no apparent reason. The place wasn't that scary. It looked as if it could open tomorrow, minus the vandalism. Josh, one of the crew members, began telling me that he felt as if the doorways were shrinking. I've never seen that though. What I could see was what looked like blood in one of the rooms. We went and checked it out, and we couldn't tell if it was blood or smeared paint, but it had that metallic smell that blood gives off. Stephen, my other crew member, said we should get out of there and report it to the owner, but I said not until we check out the north side. We climbed up the next set of stairs and walked to the north side of the hospital. Floor 3 is when we began to hear the cries of babies and women. As we got closer to the north wing, it seemed like screaming, louder and louder and louder. My crew wanted to leave, but I was so curious about what lies in the north wing. When we came to its doors, we decided that we were going to have a safe word, and if anyone said the safe word, we would all run back to the north wing doorway to safety. Our safe word was her, monkey priss. We all took a deep breath and began to explore. It seemed just like the other floor except for the occasional scream or cry of an infant. I came across a sign on a doorway that made me fucking chill to the bone. This was in fact the maternity ward. We all heard a voice crying for help. Being freaking careless, we decided to follow the voice. We were led into a massive foyer. I thought I saw a pile of people in the middle, but as I got closer, I could make out that they were in fact mannequins, all with bleeding eyes. I then thought, this is some stupid joke the security guards pulled on us, and we all began to laugh. Then we heard a loud, high-pitched voice scream, "Who are you laughing at?" Then the pile of mannequins was set on fire, which turned into a massive inferno. Stephen then screamed, "Monkey priss, mother freaking monkey priss!" And we booked it to the north wing entrance. When we all met up, we vaulted out of the hospital as fast as we could. Once we got out of the hospital, we continued to run onto the field facing the hospital. We then collapsed and watched the fire engulf the 3rd and 4th floors. It wasn't long until firefighters were on the scene. They couldn't enter the building because of all the barbed wire, so it looked like a difficult fire to fight. You could hear screams of women and children coming from the place as it burnt. The voices soon after began to turn demonic. One of the firefighters even asked the owner if there were people inside. When the owner found us in the field, he began freaking out. We explained to him what happened, and he said the mannequins were on the 5th floor the last time he checked. He then said he would cover the story up, saying it was a demolition malfunction. And as you would imagine, authorities believed him. The fire went out after a few hours, leaving the maternity ward charred and covered in ash. I've never even returned to Edmonton since then. Even though it's a massive place with a population of 1 million people, it's too horrific to believe that the hospital still stands to this day, gazing over the city. Demolition malfunction, my ass.